Emotional Regulation Recording, Session 3. Hello everyone and welcome back to the third recording in our Emotional Regulation Workshop series. So today we will begin by doing a brief recap of the most important points that we have covered in the previous workshop recording. So today we're going to cover low mood and sadness. So what normal sadness looks like, why we feel sad, and when sadness starts to become problematic. We'll also look at some ways of managing sadness. Finally, we will learn about some parenting strategies that can be used to help improve emotional regulation. Again, today, as the same with the last session, we will be providing you with some links to YouTube clips and would invite you to reflect on how the strategies in these videos would be useful for your own personal situation. In the last session, we learned a little about emotions in general and their function. We looked in particular at anger and anxiety and learned that these emotions are normal and healthy and can be adaptive. We looked at the importance of recognizing when anger and anxiety are becoming overwhelming and beginning to impact on functioning, and how they may manifest in children. We also learned about the setup of the brain with the hand model of the brain, and how we have a downstairs or animal brain, as well as an upstairs or thinking brain. We considered how perceived stress or danger can cut off communication between these brain areas, as the downstairs brain can become overwhelmed and take charge. That is, we flip our lids. We learned that when our lids have flipped, that we can act in impulsive and reactive ways, rather than be able to think logically and calmly about our actions and consequences of those actions. The hand model of the brain is quite important in relation to what we will be covering later. So I would like you to take a few minutes now to watch the recap video on it using the link provided in the slide on the screen. We also discussed the importance of parental self-care and of keeping our cool when trying to help regulate children. We looked at the sequence of engagement, that is, regulate, relate, and reason, and linked this to the setup of the brain. Remember how we said there is no point trying to reason with a highly distressed or upset child. Their lid has flipped. The thinking part of the brain is no longer in control, so there is no point in trying to use thinking or reasoning strategies, as they may not be able to access this capacity at that time. We also considered the importance of play and the benefit of it for children in terms of their learning, emotional, and social development. We focused in particular on a type of play called special play, which is a highly child-centered form of play which can help bolster the 7 confident thoughts in children. It can also help to strengthen the parent-child relationship. To support our child when they are dysregulated, it is best to be regulated ourselves, in spite of our brain's natural response to interpret this as a threat. We are looking to convey a message to our child that even though they are distressed, we are there for them. It is okay for them to feel like this, that we have this. We can stay regulated and in control of our emotions. We are not trying to distract the child away from having these feelings or make them feel differently. From repeated occurrences like this, the child will learn that while it's difficult to have these feelings, it's okay. The parent is there to support them through it. But as parents, to be able to do this, what is required? Emotional regulation strategies, support from others, taking care of ourselves, not being too hard, critical, or expecting too much from ourselves. Children and young adults may have difficulty recognizing, understanding, and reporting anxiety. Signs of anxiety for children and young adults may be subtle. We need to look for physical, verbal, and behavioral signs and know the child well. Identifying triggers and recognizing when your child is beginning to feel anxious is the key to using these strategies effectively. What are some of your child's anxiety triggers? What are some signs that your child may be feeling anxious? You can write these down on a piece of paper and reflect on your answers. Sadness or feeling blue is a normal human emotion which we all experience, and it is functional. For example, sadness may signal to us that something needs our attention. It can encourage us to seek support and comfort from someone who cares about us. Or it can give us the opportunity to withdraw so we can be still and quiet for long enough to get clarity around whatever has made us feel sad. In fact, without sadness, we wouldn't know what joy is. Sadness can include feelings of loss, despair, grief, helplessness, disappointment, disadvantage, and sorrow. Sadness can come and go, or it can be more persistent. Sadness can also present differently for everyone. Normal sadness may typically be expressed by tearfulness and crying for a short duration, withdrawing and wanting to be alone, irritability and tantrums, not wanting to participate in activities that a child would normally find fun or exciting, infrequent expression of frustration. The child may also appear tired, sluggish, or lethargic. There may be lack of motivation and inactivity apparent, as well as sleep or appetite changes. So, as we have been saying, sadness is a normal emotion and it is functional. However, like all emotions, if we experience it too often or for too long, it can become problematic. We might recognize that sadness is becoming problematic if we begin to notice that sadness lasts for longer than 2 weeks and impacts on daily functioning. So by this we mean if somebody is sad almost all day for most of a 2 week period, and if their sadness prevents them from doing things and going to places that they normally would. Sadness is also problematic when it is accompanied by frequently occurring temper tantrums, which have no apparent trigger, and when also accompanied by consistent patterns of negative self-talk and personalizing of situations. For example, the child may blame themselves for something bad happening even though it is not their fault, or may say negative things about themselves. For example, I'm so stupid, or I can't even do anything right. Sadness again is problematic when it is accompanied by physical symptoms that persist for longer than 2 weeks in the absence of illness. And these physical symptoms don't respond to typical treatment. These physical symptoms may include fatigue or reduced energy levels, sleep disturbance, headaches, aches and pains, and digestive issues. I would like you to take a moment now to stop and think about your own child. What are some reasons for why your child has been sad in the past? You may want to jot these down on a piece of paper. Understanding the cause of sadness or any emotion can help us to empathize and help them work through the emotion instead of around it. Children may experience sadness for many reasons. These may include if they have experienced the loss of something important to them, for example, loss of a loved one, loss of a pet, loss of a special friendship, loss of closeness with a loved one after an argument, loss of their self-confidence, feelings of loss following separation of their parents, disappointment, rejection, if they feel they have been ignored or misunderstood, if they feel they haven't achieved their goals. Sadness is one of the hardest emotions for parents to sit with. If your child is persistently sad, you may feel helpless or even frustrated with them. This is a common reaction, and there are some things you can do to help your child. Constantly work on social connection. It is very difficult to reduce sadness in children if they are isolated and have no positive sources of friendship. Even if there are other obvious sadness triggers such as grief, family separation, learning problems, or health problems, increasing social connection will help children feel less sad as they try to deal with them. Work on physical activity, sleep, and nutrition. Sadness eases when children are more physically fit and active, get enough sleep, and eat well. Don't neglect these areas. Both of these may be hard to initiate in those low mood stages. As a parent, it is important to open up a dialogue and first to listen. Don't dismiss your child's sadness, even if it seems to be over something trivial. We don't dismiss major losses like death, divorce, or a fight with a friend. It's easy to think a broken toy or a forgotten leaf can't cause true sadness, but it can. By saying something like, "it's just a leaf," would dismiss their feelings. What seems silly to us can feel like genuine sadness to our kids. Brushing aside your child's sadness makes her feel unimportant, as if these feelings aren't as valid as someone else's. How we respond verbally to our child's sadness is also important. Can anyone remember saying phrases like, "don't cry," "don't be sad, that makes me sad," or "I don't like it when you're sad," to either friends, partners, or to your child? Chances are you have said something like this on occasion. Of course, it can be uncomfortable or we can feel sad when we know that someone we care about is hurting. But if children regularly hear statements such as those, they may receive the message that they should avoid talking about sadness, or that it is an unacceptable feeling. Open, accepting, and non-judgmental communication about sadness can help your child to sit with and deal with the emotion, rather than to avoid it. It is also important to not talk endlessly about sadness or the problem. Having hour-long conversations, especially before bed, may make things worse. Tell your child, "we will talk about this again soon, but now let's read a book or watch TV." Be empathetic. Be with them. Say, "I'm sorry you had a hard day," and "I'm sorry you are feeling sad at the moment." Try to be patient with your child. Remember, your child can't make themselves be positive or happy. Remember that a hug can go a long way. Hugs and other interpersonal touches can cause our brains to produce soothing chemicals that help us to feel safe. Finally, look after yourself. Supporting children who get sad is a challenging and stressful experience for both parents. If you are to manage any challenging and stressful experience, you need to look after your own physical, mental, and emotional health. We have provided you with a link to a view which shows how sadness can be functional. Just to give a little context for those who didn't get a chance to watch Inside Out yet, Riley has decided to run away as she was having difficulties adjusting after her family moved house to a new area far away from where she lived before. From what we have seen, sadness really comes in and saves the day. Sadness is the only emotion that is able to communicate with Riley's parents about what she is going through and what has been upsetting her. This allows her to seek the warmth and connection that she needs to regulate. Riley highlights how it can be difficult to express sadness, especially when we may feel that it is an unacceptable emotion when she says, "I know that you need for me to be happy." Riley's mother, earlier in the film, had encouraged her to be happy and strong, as Riley's father had been quite stressed out by all of the things going wrong. In this way, Riley may have received the message that her expressing other feelings about the situation was unacceptable. In the clip, Riley's parents acknowledge and validate her sadness by sharing what they miss too. In this way, they model how to sit with and work through sadness rather than to avoid it, or further making her feel like it is an unacceptable emotion. Your homework for this week is to begin one new activity for the purpose of looking after your own self-care needs. For our next recording, we will look at the zones of regulation and how we can teach the concepts of the zones to our children. We will also look at working on building an emotional regulation toolbox. We are going to discuss a wide range of strategies, including relaxation ones, sensory ones, thinking ones, and other strategies. We will look at why they work and which ones are used best in certain situations. We will try a few out in session and will point you in the direction of a wide range of resources to help you implement these.